Happy Sunday, Smite fans, and welcome back to the SCC Qualifiers. We had EU the last couple of days. Today, we make our way back into North America for the last four matchups in the first round of the North American SCC play-ins. It's been a long week so far as number of sets. Number of games, though, maybe not so much. Lots of 2-0s. That might change today, though. Trelly, I think we've got a slate of games here today that have the potential to maybe give us our first three-game set.
Yeah, as we were talking about a little bit yesterday, at the early days of the bracket, there's going to be a lot of, high-ranked teams versus low-ranked teams. They receive it like that. So as we get more into this tournament, the matches are just going to get more intense, and it's going to be probably, we could get our first three-set games here, and it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, we'll see. Take a look at the schedule that we've got for you here on this fine Sunday. Four best-of-three sets. SAMSARA versus SLADER starts us off. Funhavers versus the Neighborhood. There's actually a little history in that matchup. Those two teams played against each other a couple of times during the SPL play-in tournament, and then Lean Into It versus HOTM. I don't know what that stands for, but we'll find out. My Fault B versus Sops Time ends the day. So four best-of-three sets here in the first round of the North American Challenger Circuit Qualifiers. And you'll see as we take a look at the bracket, they were filling out the bottom half. The first four sets we saw this weekend filled out the next round. Up top in the first round of the losers bracket, and these last four sets will start to move teams forward in that second round of the qualifiers, and the losers round one down towards the bottom of that bracket. So the first matchup we've got here today, I think becomes very, very interesting. SAMSARA versus SLADER. And I want to start with SAMSARA here, Trelly, because SAMSARA was a team during that SPL play-in tournament. Obviously didn't qualify to the SPL, but I think had a pretty good performance there that week. This is Slash, who is joining this team now. Wasn't on this team during that tournament, but Jangaru, Briz, Privative, and Shinigami put together some really, really nice games, and I think have a great opportunity to qualify to the North American SCC.
Yeah, absolutely. They were against a bunch of teams with a lot of talent. They definitely showed some fire for such a young team.
Yep.
And, they have a lot of standout players as well. Shinigami was able to make some sick plays even against some of the people that made it into the SPL. So they have the talent. They definitely do. It's just, they are going to have to adapt to having this new solo laner. It's going to be one of those things where it's going to be a learning curve. We'll have to see if that's going to struggle with them. But they definitely have the talent.
I think they do. And Jangaru stands out to me. I'm glad we got some highlights of Jangaru here. Briz as well, though, really stood out during that play-in tournament. Easy as you like on that Thoth ultimate there. You're not going to be missing that one. But I think you look at some of these highlights. The earlier highlight was SAMSARA up in kills against this Oni Homies team, but down in gold. And so I think some of the shortcoming for SAMSARA during that play-in tournament against teams like the now Oni Warriors or like the now Valhalla Valkyries were more of the macro decision-making style, not so much in the mechanics, because plays like this, even if I'm going to get hit with the Dark Portal, I'm still going to find a way to turn around a kill onto Vote. Nonetheless, that is disgusting from Shinigami. So mechanically, Trelly, I think you're spot on there, where the SAMSARA team has the ability to make plays, has the ability to find kills. It's against the top tier teams, the SPL caliber teams, where maybe some of that macro play was lacking. SLADER, though, the opponents for SAMSARA here in our first set of the day, a team that we have seen play together a little bit. It's an SOC roster. Really how we would recognize these players in together. This is Sumik, Slade, Paradox, Evermed, and Lucharizard. And so you're starting to look at some chemistry here, Trelly, but a team that's attempting to kind of make that next step in their competitive career.
Yeah, I think since SAMSARA did get that a little bit of SPL type experience in the SPL play-ins, I think they've got a little bit of an edge here in that regard. I mean, just facing teams with veteran leadership like that it's just gonna do so well for even if the mental game, right? Just because you lost did not mean you didn't learn something. I think they were able to take some sick games, so it's gonna be a tough hill for them to climb because obviously SLADER coming from the SOC, they don't have that sort of experience. But I've been saying this all week. Just because people don't know, everything that you can do, that could be a benefit. They don't know how to ban you out. They don't know how to deal with their strats if they have something in their pocket. So I think they definitely have a chance.
Yeah, I think that was, pretty interesting during that SPL play-in tournament as well, where there are a lot of newer names that showed up to that tournament. I think a lot of people were surprised by the way a lot of teams played. I definitely give SAMSARA an edge here in this matchup. Of course, they have that experience during the SPL play-in LAN, but just based on what we've seen, which is more than what we've seen from this later SLADER draft, or later SLADER roster, rather. I think gives SAMSARA a bit of an edge here in this one. Talk a little bit about meta and things we've seen so far here this weekend. I always base off the last time we've seen competitive Smite. It's been a couple of weeks. That play-in tournament happened a couple weeks ago. Now we're seeing these teams play in here to the SEC. Has anything really stood out to you here so far this week as far as meta goes? I know Amaterasu's been highly prioritized, seen a lot of Circuit, things like that. Has anything surprised you in picks and bans?
For sure. I mean, right now, a lot of teams that we've seen, especially in the EU bracket that we were watching yesterday, people are playing a lot off of this duo lane. They want to make sure to get a high-pressure ADC like these Izanamis and such, and just get lots of pressure in that duo lane, purple buff invades, etc. And a team like SAMSARA, they love to play off the duo lane. Shimigami and Priv, they've got great synergy. As long as they're getting aggressive, they like to look at these Fenrir and Circuit picks that can flex to jungle as well. So that's sort of the meta they might be going for here. They like playing off of that duo lane.
Yeah, I agree. The duo lane's so strong for the SAMSARA team. Jangaru as well, I think, comes to mind for me. How is SAMSARA going to prioritize the jungle here in this draft? I think Jangaru is able to play that role towards the top of the tier list, and we definitely saw that during the SPL play-in tournament. So jungle priority definitely comes to mind. And then later, we're going to learn a lot about this team, and their priorities start to lie on this first wave of picks and bans, and obviously what types of lane that they want to play around. Solo lane could be an area where later Slader are able to find an advantage. We saw some highlights of Sumik, and that's sort of maybe what this team is built around. So we'll have to see where that priority lies. RDO taken away, Amaterasu banned out as well. Fenrir, Kabrakan both taken away by SAMSARA. That's going to leave Gilgamesh open. Gilgamesh has seen decent rate, probably around 50% pick ban rate here this week. Have you been impressed with what we've seen from Gil? Only 33% win rate, maybe not indicative of how strong the pick really is.
Yeah, the pick can definitely, that early pressure is what you're looking for. He can set up some pretty sweet ganks. He's got one of the better level 2 fights in the game, barring maybe like an Erlang Shen or a Circuit. But right now, the Bastet, I think that was a much stronger pick that was available. Bastet, you can flex it into the solo, you can flex it into the jungle, either or, and she just has so much damage, so much CC. So we've seen the Bastet pick have a lot of success as well, and getting Shimigami on this Medusa, which is arguably the top hunter right now in the duo lane. That's just so much early damage, so that's going to be a strong start for the SAMSARA draft. Yeah,
that's what I was wondering, if we would see Bastet for Jangaru, because that is a pick. You want to draw similarities to that SPL play-in tournament. Bastet for Jangaru was a good look throughout that week, and I like the shout out to Medusa there as well, Trelly. I think a strong start here for SAMSARA. Nothing to scoff at, though, for later Slader. I mean, you start with Gilg, you follow up with Persephone and Bacchus. I think Persephone's been in an interesting spot where even despite some losses a couple of days ago, Persephone constantly finding herself towards the top of the damage charts. And then Bacchus, great for finding pressure early, but also very tanky late.
Yeah, right now Bacchus is doing that start. I mean, most people are doing that start where you get that Belt of Frenzy, you walk up, burp the wave, try to get the stun up. If you hit level 2, you get the knockup, then you get first blood if you can play it correctly. I mean, Bacchus has been highly contested in this dual lane, and for good reason. I mean, some of the best level 2 fights in that lane specifically, and you got to pair him with something with clear. Obviously, they don't have their hunter just yet, and they're going against a Medusa, so they're going to have to figure out what sort of, do they want to dial it back or do they want to look for a pressure? To me, that looks like they're going for a kill lane. They want to go early.
Yeah, unfortunately, Izanami now taken away by later Slader themselves. Might have been nice for some of that clear in lane, but still plenty of options. SAMSARA take away a couple of junglers here on the back half of the draft. Daji and Nemesis both banned out. And then Privative takes a couple of bans. The Ganesh was a very popular pick of Privs during that SPL play-in tournament. Some fantastic games put in on that pick, so no surprise that later Slader identifying the support of SAMSARA a little bit down the back end of the draft. With the Osiris lock in here, Trelly, that confirms Bastet will be out of the jungle. Osiris over in the solo lane. Do you think, that was, a lot of Season 7, some of Season 8. We saw plenty of Osiris in solo, seeing it a little bit here in Season 9. Do you think Osiris still towards the top of that tier list?
Absolutely. I mean, any warrior right now that can benefit from Death's Toll, having a cleave auto and then Berserker Shield start is just insane right now. Obviously, we've seen so much Amaterasu, so much Bologna at this point. Osiris is no different. He's going to have a great matchup into this Odin. He's not really going to care about the cage too much as long as he has his passive up. I mean, I think that in this matchup specifically, Slash should just be able to chill. There's not really much he should worry about here.
Yeah, Slash saying, stay in lane, farm up. That's what solo laners like to do nowadays anyway. And the Osiris able to do so. Yamoja left to Privative to last pick. I feel like Yamoja, first of all, 0% win rate, but only across 2 games, so not enough data on that. Yamoja, I feel like, is always in such a unique spot where, you know, for a while in Season 7, even in Season 8 a little bit, Umoja kind of regardless of who was playing or was pick ban. We're in a world now where, like, I feel like Umoja's so surprising where something like this, Umoja will fall down to, like, 10th pick overall, and I'm like, why is Umoja falling that far down in the draft? You know what I mean? And so I think SAMSARA is able to put together a really fantastic draft here, Trelly, for game number 1.
No, I like their draft. I think they got everything that they would really want here. But on the flip side, I mean, later SLADER, they have a solid draft as well. The one thing that I'm going to be, you know, a little bit hounding on here is that Odin pick. I'm just a little concerned to see how they're going to really get these cages here. It's going to be when those rotations decide to come out, really, because there are some people you can trap in the cage.
Yep.
But you just have to make sure these rotations are pretty crisp here.
Game number 1 between later SLADER and SAMSARA, kicking off our first best of 3 of the day in the first round of the North American SCC Qualifier Tournament. Wonder if at some point we'll see a Phantom Shell picked up by someone on SAMSARA. That depends how effective Sumac is with some of those cages as this game goes on, I imagine. Lots of beads priority here for SAMSARA. Trelly, you got 4 sets of beads to start off this draft. Jangaru's got a set, Privativ's got a set. And Slash has gone Blink here. So does anything surprise you as far as Relic pick for SAMSARA in the first couple of minutes?
Yeah, to me, I mean, if Slash is going for the blink, it tells me that he's looking to get aggressive in this lane, maybe make some early, like, rotations, not all the way over, because this teleport, we've seen so many people abusing this, like, persistent teleport where they can go to the fights early. It's just on such a short cooldown. It did get a little bit of a nerf, but still, you can rotate so freely. So if Slash is going to be going for this blink start, I have to imagine he's looking to kill this Odin, because the blue stone clear, it's not going to be as powerful. The sustain's just not there, so maybe he's just looking to get really aggressive in this lane.
Can we get aggressive? Can Jangaru start to find a little bit of pressure? We know Bastet likes to do that. Jangaru, again, during that SPL qualifier tournament, Jangaru put together some fantastic games on the Bastet, so maybe able to flex those muscles a little bit. Beads picked up for 3 members of later SLADER. Slade's got 1, then of course both the carries. Paradox in the mid lane could be under the eyes of Bastet here at some point in this lane. Agni on the other side, though, Trelly, we started to see the rise of Agni a little bit. Sort of a control mage has started to see more priority.
Yeah, the Agni pick has been not surprising at this point. At first, you know, you think, you know, everyone consists Agni is at like that point of balance where he's not too great, but he's not too bad. But at this point, with this double flat pen meta, I mean, Agni was doing so much damage yesterday before he even finished his items. It's a lot of space control, as you said, and he just has so much burst. It really just depends if he can get to that level 5 mark, because his early clear is not the best.
Right, yeah, and Briz especially for SAMSARA. You know, I look back again to that play-in tournament, and Briz was a standout member of the SAMSARA team on this style of mage. Thoth looked really, really good for Briz and SAMSARA as well. So maybe as this set goes on, if it gets a little bit more extended, we see this style of pick from Briz on a more consistent basis. Didn't see the Frenzy get used at level 1 by Evermed. Kept it in the back pocket, maintained things here, reach level 2 and 3 respectively. Heimdall's going to need a little bit of time to kind of spin up here in this lane. Stuff like this is going to be happening, though. Charizard riptided it back twice. Bifrost used, but it's read by Shinigami. And that is exactly what we talk about. Playmaking potential from SAMSARA and its first blood over to the duo lane.
Yeah, beautiful pull by Priv there, and then obviously Shinigami just had to wait for the pull. Unfortunately, he got pulled twice. I think he was just a little bit, the space control just wasn't there, obviously. But I think that all started just because you have this Bacchus, you have this aggressive pick, right? You want to pop the Frenzy, you want to clear the way, but Heimdall's early clear on those buffs is not the best. Didn't get to lane in time to pop that Frenzy, and now you just have no sort of pressure. You're getting out poked. And of course, Medusa, once that dash comes in, it's going to be trouble.
Yeah, SAMSARA off to a good start. And it's Privative. You know, Priv was a real standout player as well. I think the SAMSARA team surprised a lot of people, surprised me especially. And Priv was at the forefront of a lot of that. So the Umoja 10th pick already worth its weight here for SAMSARA. You're going to put this Heimdall just a bit behind this lane. Now might start to feel a little bit awkward for later SLADER. Did hold on to the beats, though. Charizard did, but you're starting to cede pressure. You're going to lose your Harpy on the left side of this lane. Can you send Slade left, though? Looks like Gilgamesh was considering it, but we'll back off.
Yeah, Slade did come over just to confirm that purple buff after Charizard died, but no sort of fight potential here. I mean, you already are seeing some ultimates come out from SAMSARA. Maybe not for Priv, but
it happened again.
Oh, here we go.
It happened again! It's the same thing. It's a Riptide into a stun. And then a Petrify from Shinigami. It's another kill, and it happens the exact same way, except this time, SAMSARA had ultimates to confirm it. Priv didn't even have to use River's Rebuke. And so a 2-0 start for Shinigami on the Medusa, and this is exactly what you were talking about during draft, Trelly, with just how strong this Medusa pick is. And before Shinigami's even had to go back to base, SAMSARA's dual lane is off to a 2-0 start.
Yeah, Lucharizard is going to have to either sit back under tower or pre-beads these Riptides because Priv's on point right now, and he's, you got to feed the hot hand. He's going to be looking for these pulls consistently. You still don't have your ult available. I mean, you got to dial it back at this point. 2 deaths this quickly, it's going to start the Medusa snowball that you do not want to be in the path of.
Yeah, especially with beads still up, and I'm glad you bring that up. Now it's happened twice the exact same way, and beads have remained there both times. Maybe Lucharizard is assuming that the crystal on the other end was going to come out quick enough, but just way too much burst damage from this dual lane now. So later SLADER in a unique spot where I'm not sure Slade is super excited at the prospect of getting the left side of this map. That is a back and a completed crusher for Shinigami, so this lane an immediate power spike. And if Priv hangs anywhere in this lane, or if Lucharizard overextends at all in this lane, Shinigami has the ability to find a solo kill. So keep your eyes on the dual lane. SAMSARA can start to compound some of that interest. It's a 9,000 gold lead 5 minutes in. That's nothing to scoff at. And it's not only over in the dual lane. Top net worth by 200 gold or so over to Briz, so the farming has been more effective for SAMSARA's mid laner there as well. But you're starting to see some early pressure here on left. Early Gold Furies, things like that. SAMSARA probably feels comfortable with over on left.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think Slade's going to have to get very active in this duel. And the snowball is already forming, as I've been saying. And it's just so hard as a Heimdall to step up to this Medusa pick with the Crusher already built. You're clear. Without Crusher, Heim's not clearing the wave very effectively at all right now. So he's just going to be sitting under tower, losing some farm, unless they decide to just go for their invades and stuff. So every time these Harpies spawn, every time these, the mid Harpy spawns as well, it's just going to be going over to Shinigami on the Medusa. So I think Slade's going to have to get active over there or completely just say, you know what, you're on your own for this one. I got to get other people ahead. So right now he's playing off the mid, making sure they get those mid camps, and maybe that's the route they're deciding to take here. We need to get all the farm we can because right now Duo is going to be a tank.
Yeah, it's always the unique issue, isn't it, as a jungler? All right, my lane is like 0-2. It's like right in that world where you still probably are able to rotate over and help out. Goodbye, Evermed. That's a 3-on-1 fight. Slade around the backside. An ultimate gets used by Jangaru. Paradox attempted to peel out, but the first time we've seen a jungler really get active here in this game, and it's Jangaru just kind of walking into the mid lane. Evermed belly flopped in and ended up getting taken down. And look at the timing. Purple buff's about to respawn. Slade is here, but I think needs to back away.
Yeah, this is what feels really bad on these aggressive support picks that don't have those beads enabled. If Evermed is ahead, he can just flop in freely every time he goes in. There's going to be a kill. Looks like Slade is going to be getting poked out here. Maybe has the damage.
Slade drops down the Winds of Shamash. We'll end up heading on back to base. I mean, everything just pushing against Slader right now. SAMSARA playing consistently and controlling pressure all over the map. You've lost your left side purple, your only purple buff, not only your left side, but your purple buff. You lost your left side jungle is the way to look at that. As SAMSARA continues to put pressure out. Gold Fury there, maybe considering it, but at 7 minutes would be a little early, maybe a bit of a risk with a couple members of later Slader close on this side of the map. So it's really only the solo lane, Trilly, that's been left untouched. Not much has happened in mid, but Briz has already pulled 2 levels ahead. So that's uncomfortable. You're playing against an Agni. Petrify out from Shinigami. Beads used. Damage is there, but it's a 2 versus 1. Shinigami desperately dodging out the auto attacks. Jangaru's here to save his ADC's life, and Shinigami will survive. He might do you one better. Can he find the kill on the other end? Evermed belly flops in, and later Slader cannot buy a kill at this point. Jangaru's going to get out of this one. Grasp of Death is no good. Now there's a River's Rebuke up from SAMSARA as well. The rotation's through, just so good, and Shinigami pulls a rabbit out of the hat.
I mean, those were the juke shoes, of course, but you gotta give props to your team there for coming in to save you. Jangaru had a beautiful route, and then I mean, that just feels so bad for later Slater. They did get the consolation prize, the purple buff, but when you're down 3-0 at this point, just 1 kill would really be a good morale boost for your squad, and it just was not there. Everyone getting so low, but the peel was there. Everyone playing so well together on the SAMSARA team. They're a well-oiled machine right now, so it looks like at this point you're gonna have to take that consolation prize and dial it back.
Yeah, 2,600 or 26,000. My goodness, 26,000 gold for SAMSARA. 2.7k in the lead, 3.5k in the experience, though, and that's definitely the more worrying trend here. And if you're allowed to play around this mid lane, this Agni continues to be 2 levels ahead and can find that advantage over Paradox. It's an area where SAMSARA can push this advantage. Privative looked at, but able to rip Tide away just fine. Jangaru over towards mid again. No root this time. Beads were there for Paradox. Imagine we see those get burnt, but that's a whole chunk of damage, Trelly. I mean, you're telling me that Bastet gets to walk in, throw one cat out, that does half of Paradox's HP.
I might do all of Paradox's HP.
Yeah. Caster's Curse in the best way possible. Jangaru just sends a couple cats Paradox's way. And SAMSARA off to a 4-0 start. And Jangaru, the jungler, is able to pick up another kill on the mid lane or put this Persephone a little bit further behind.
Oh, no.
Maybe another kill as well. Yeah.
Oh,
ultimate no good. Cat. Gonna get taken down by the tower. Slade will survive. But Jangaru's just on easy street right now. It's a Jotun's Wrath. And 2 tiers into that mace tree. We'll see what Jangaru finishes off with his next item. But the ability to just play aggressively, steal away some of those harpies. Jangaru really controlling now the right and mid side of the map.
Yeah, Bastet right now just feels so oppressive because you used to think about Bastet as that character with no sort of CC immunity. You could just cripple her when she jumped in, and it was.
Right.
But that's just no longer the case anymore. She has that CC immunity and the Huntress of Bast, and now she can pretty much do whatever you want. Pyromancer is starting to be looked at, and that's just going to go down for free. There's no one from later SLADER even close at this point. And now, as you were mentioning, that XP lead, that's going to start turning into 2 relics over 1 for everyone on the side of SAMSARA, at least the carries for right now. And that's when those Gold Fury pulls are going to be so crucial because you only have a beads enabled at this point. How are you going to defend yourself against, a Blink Bastet? It's just going to be so difficult. So later SLADER's going to have to dial it back or at least play, willing to trade and just not commit too hard to these fights.
Yeah, it's 1 or 2 levels for every single member on SAMSARA. As Beads gets picked up by Slash, so every member of SAMSARA's got Beads. And I wondered if we would see a shell. We do see a shell, Trelly, but it's for Briz. And so at some point in this game, that'll probably become a Phantom Shell. Maybe that's Briz just buying a little insurance. Sumic rotates out of solo lane, becomes a problem. If that becomes a Phantom Shell, it'll keep this Agni on the map a little bit longer.
Yeah, as long as your tanks are playing up like this, I think that there's no real threat of the Persephone damage getting you. I think that's the only thing that you would really need an Aegis for at this point. So as long as you're able to Phantom Shell, the carries stay back, because if one of your tanks gets Phantom Shell, they always have to be hugging you. But if they're up, providing space, you can be in the back, Phantom Shell your carries, and then just stick together. So I don't hate the play. I just think if this Persephone did get online, it could be a little rough. But at this point, I mean, Briz says so far ahead, I don't think anyone is going to be killing him unless he gets trapped in that cage.
Yeah, getting online is a long journey for Paradox here at this point. 2 levels down in the mid lane. Double flat pen completed for Briz and a tier 1 item after that in the artifact tree. Gold Fury was looked at a minute ago by SAMSARA. Ward coverage dropped down, but later SLADER showed some face. Surprised that we're not seeing Trelly more of pressure put over here on left. I mean, you got the 2-0 start for Shinigami. You send Jangaru over there with the 2-0 start in the jungle as well. You feel like SAMSARA are at a point where they could force this Gold Fury, or is that still too much of a risk?
They definitely could, as long as they have tabs on Sumic's teleport. I would say the only real issue they would have right now is if they get caught out, trapped in a cage. But, I mean, at this point, they just have such a lead. Agni's doing crazy damage, already has the double flat pen finish. I feel like they have so much burst, especially, with the Medusa Petrify if they do want to group up to defend. So I think they could certainly pull it if they wanted to.
That is massive. Double drop kick from Slade. But Jangaru is good on the ultimate. Evermed trapped in the River's Rebuke. Jangaru riptided out and away. A bit uncomfortable there, but it's a kill nonetheless. 1 for 1, though, is Briz the first one to go down. The Agni just left alone a bit. And later, SLADER find the first kill of the game, and it's on to a great target. Briz, with a 2-level lead in the mid lane, will not be in the rest of this fight.
Yep, I mean, that's exactly what I was just talking about. Sumic makes that rotation, gets him trapped in the cage. You have Shell available, but it's not that Phantom Shell yet, so you're still going to be trapped in that cage. And now you don't have an Aegis available either, so that's just going to be curtains for the Agni. Great, just heads-up play by Sumic, knowing that, hey, we need to do something, get on the board right now, or the snowball could get out of control. I'm going to go over, I'm going to trap that Agni in a cage. They still don't have the Phantom available, and that was just a picture-perfect play.
Yeah, I wonder if that fight goes better for SAMSARA. If you don't lose Briz, you get 1 pick, maybe 2 picks. You're probably immediately pulling that Gold Fury. So, Later Slater even able to delay out more of a gold spike. Though with everyone back on the map, SAMSARA, you got to keep your eyes on the solo laners. Where are they rotating? Slash comes back from base, heads on over to the left side of the map, and now's the time for the Gold Fury pull. There will be no fight on it. Later Slater poked their heads around the corner. Maybe didn't realize immediately when SAMSARA were going to be on that objective. So that one kill that Later Slater just found effectively wiped away as the Gold Fury gets grabbed.
Yeah, I liked what their head was at, but they just didn't have the re-engage there. I mean, you only have one teleport from Sumik, obviously, so you can only make that sweet rotation once. They just didn't have the ward coverage. They just weren't in position for it. Great play by SAMSARA just to pull that, but they still can look for things elsewhere. But it looks like still the numbers are on the side of SAMSARA. Even after they just pulled that objective, they're still staying together. They're still staying as a unit, so they're not even giving anyone an opportunity to get picked.
Looks like Sumik has had pretty comfortable time getting pressure in this lane. Tier 1 tower on right, about to go down against SAMSARA. Would be the first tower in this game, so where Slash has had to rotate out, Sumik has been just fine. That is a lot of damage from Slash. He's got Berserker Shield into the Runeforged Hammer. And Trelly, we've seen, you know, Runeforged picked up here and there. Maybe Slash able to make good use of it. You get Berserker Shield, toss out those tethers, and start to proc that Runeforged a little bit. And you see the chunk damage he's able to do on Sumik, so bit of a hybrid build here out of the solo lane.
Yeah, I mean, once Blackthorn got that nerf, it kind of just fell out of favor. Then everyone realized, like, wait a second, Runeforge gives that same sort of HP, but also crazy amounts of damage if you have the CC to proc it, of course. So, I mean, Slash is just going to be W-keying as much as he wants because there's no real fear of Slade coming over to gank. He showed no face over here in this solo lane, but look at this play. They're going to pop the Frenzy and just try to sneak this.
Priv can't steal this because later Slater invested a lot. I mean, the Frenzy, I don't know, maybe you don't call it a lot, but it's a group up Frenzy and takedown to the Pyromancer by SAMSARA. Slade takes a whole heap of damage, and Privative just walking forward. Briz over the wall with the ultimate. It's going to force Slade to jump on out. Now SAMSARA on the hunt for a kill. Some pressure here in the mid lane. Slash blinks forward. Damage doesn't connect, but tier 1 tower in the mid lane should be crumbling here shortly. SAMSARA not there on the Pyro. We're able to group up and knock down the tier 1 and mid, get some of that global gold going for the team.
Yeah, that was a great stun by Evermet. I think if Priv had one more second, he probably could have found the rivers there and trapped him in, but just the stun from Bacchus peeling for his jungler. Slade gets to go back to base, and it doesn't seem like there's really anything. Maybe they might be grouping to go for this tier 1 here. They all still are sort of squatted up, but there's no real objective to fight over. It looks like they're just trying to invade as much XP as they can and then just dial it back.
Shinigami also picking up shell here, Trelly. I mean, I guess the analysis is the same as it was for Briz and mid, where if like the giant burst damage is really going to be coming from the Persephone. Slade gets jumped on by Jangaru, ultimate no good, and so the Bastet will have to leap away. Slade uses ult, Jangaru uses ult, but Slade also had to use those beats. So net win for SAMSARA, going to be a tier 1 over on left, taken down as well. Charizard walks away from the cap. SAMSARA playing the map much more effectively than later Slater here at this point in the game. But is the analysis effectively the same in your eyes? We go back to that shell for Shinigami. Like if you're able to avoid the big burst damage from the Persephone, the value in shell is just more than Aegis.
Yeah, in my mind, I think they're on the same page, whereas if they both have a Phantom Shell, they're both squatted up, the only way they ever die is if they do get trapped in that cage. Even if Persephone somehow gets close enough to them to do that damage, they should be able to avoid, you know, the brunt of it, so they should be fine. But yeah, that Odin cage could just be disaster for Medusa and an Agni, and they probably just got together and said, we're gonna play off each other, you know, the carries in the back line peel for each other. We're gonna Phantom Shell each other, and we should have no problems there. So one of your Phantoms goes down, at least Odin can't find that second cage because you both have one now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, communication's going to be important for Briz and Shinigami. I mean, it always is in Smite, but for these two now, if you're going to be grouped up with one another, effectively calling out who's using as Paradox loses. I think Briz just did half of Slade's HP as well, and Paradox's, just with some of that chunk damage from the Agni. But communication between Briz and Shinigami, who's using those shells when, going to be the utmost importance, so you're not juggling it at the same time. Privative steals away the purple. Nothing going right for Charizard here this game. 0-2 still at the start of this lane. It's an 0-4 duo lane for later Slater. We wondered going into the draft if that's where SAMSARA would find a little bit of pressure, and they sure have. It's a teleport in from Sumik. Just to confirm up this red buff, you're going to have a Primal Fury here in just a few seconds, and SAMSARA are going to group up. But I'm not sure this is a fight that later Slater are excited about taking when you're 6,000 to 7,000 gold down.
Yeah, maybe Sumik thought the Gold Fury was spawning a little bit earlier. I think maybe that teleport was just there to show face, so they backed off. But he won't have the teleport available if they are going to pull this gold now. But it looks like he's probably just going to be lurking over here. No, he's going to head over there. So it might just be they're just going to go for this Gold Fury for free. They might be trying. They might be trying the fire pull off this.
Yeah, I mean you might have to, right? I mean you're so far down in this game. And SAMSARA proving that they can play the map very effectively. Fire Giant pulled by later SLADER, everything being thrown on it. Jangaru and Slash both here. Primal Fury gets taken down by SAMSARA, but over on the right, Fire Giant down to half HP. The call by later SLADER to keep them in the game, but was the call correct? Slash and Jangaru are just controlling the fight anyway. Fire Giant being taken down and will get secured by SAMSARA. It's devastating. For later SLADER, you've lost everyone but Sumik. You might lose him as well. Sumik is able to walk away, and SAMSARA, I think, have just iced this game. The call from later SLADER to start up the FG was picked up on by Jangaru and Slash, and everything comes up SAMSARA's way.
Yeah, it just seemed like, you know, you wait for the gold to spawn, you go for it. Hopefully they don't see you, but the second you see Jangaru and Slash turn that corner, I feel like you call that play off. This game wasn't so far out of the woods yet. I don't think it was like a 20,000 gold deficit where we just have to go for this Hail Mary play, but at this point, yeah, you're pretty much just through big time. Now you're going to have to dial it back. Even if you lose both these Phoenixes, you still have a small chance, but yeah, later SLADER just went for the Hail Mary play, and it just did not work out for them.
Yeah, level 20 for 3 members of SAMSARA now. Jangaru just around that corner. 17 is the highest level for later SLADERs. You're fighting a bit of an uphill battle here, and mid and right Phoenixes are open. Left side tier 2 towers there. A lot of gold in hand for SAMSARA as well, 2,000 at least. And so you'll be able to go back, reset as a team, and start to push in here. You know, it's a unique call from later SLADER. Doesn't work out here this time. It was really backbreaking that Slash and Jangaru were able, even in a 2 versus 5, it felt like, find a bunch of those kills before the rest of the SAMSARA team had even rotated over. But, you know, even outside of that individual play, SAMSARA feels like they were really controlling this game anyway. Maybe later SLADER were in a bit desperation mode there, kind of sensing how the next few minutes would have gone if a play like that didn't go in their favor. But you're looking down at Phoenix defense at 4 level 20 members of SAMSARA when nobody on later SLADER has crested even the level 18 mark here just yet. Getting close to full build for SAMSARA. You gotta hope, I guess, Trelly, that the later SLADER Phoenix defense is like out of this world good. Because you're gonna need a little bit of help and then some here to keep this game alive.
I mean, I'm looking at 4 upgraded starters on the side of SAMSARA, so out of this world good might not even cut it at this point. You gotta hope, you know,
somebody disconnects.
Yeah,
or
maybe
like
someone's mom turns off the router. They don't have.
Right,
even
somebody's DoorDash has showed up for the last fight.
Yeah, even at this point, a 4v5 doesn't.
You think
seem
they win
like
a 4v5?
I don't think that's tall. That's a tall of an ask at this point.
Yeah, probably not.
I think they could send Jangaru down mid lane 4v5, and they would still be sitting pretty because they do have the Phantom Shell available. That's their only real shot. But Evermed already going in.
Yeah, and going down. I mean, Slash and Jangaru basically won a 2 versus 5 a minute ago over on the Fire Giant, so 5v5 feels just fine for SAMSARA. Left side Phoenix, afterthought. Do we even bother with mid or right? That's the question. Jangaru ults onto Slade, forces the bees out. Rest of SAMSARA in on the chase. And Jangaru has got the last bit of damage now. 1 by 1, later SLADER will fall. 3 members left alive. Jungle, support, both dead. Riptide back. It's been there all game long from Privative, and SAMSARA controlled game 1 from the onset. And they will end game 1 on top. SAMSARA grab game number 1.
Yeah, no health bars are even low here. They're probably just going to clean up. Triple kill for Jangaru, and there goes the Titan. I mean, just great play. As I was saying, that Odin pick just couldn't even get online. 0-0-1. If he isn't able to make those rotations, I mean, SAMSARA just was able to run away with it.
That's a forgettable game, to say the least, from the later SLADER duo lane. An 0-8 combined duo lane between the Bacchus and the Heimdall there. And so, oh, that was just brutal. And then the game really ends at that Fire Giant call. But I think that's the type of game, Trelly, where you're able to see the writing on the wall, and SAMSARA were just in such control. So back to the drawing board for later SLADER. Can game 2 fare any better? Well, we got to stick around and find out. SAMSARA on top of this best-of-3 set after game number 1, at least. It's going to take a total revamping from later SLADER here in game 2 to turn this set around. You got to win 2 straight now against a very, very strong SAMSARA team. The left side of the map from minute 0 was under control of SAMSARA, and then you make some interesting calls if you're later SLADER. The game just didn't really work out. You and I were kind of talking during the break, though, Trelly, where, you know, that FG call, it's something, you know, if it works out, you're a genius. If it doesn't work out, you know, kind of, oh, well, you know, we're poking holes in that call. But I really do think, with the way that game was going, you know, the FG was going to SAMSARA in a couple of minutes in that game anyway.
For sure.
That was probably the only opportunity later SLADER we're going to have at it.
Yeah, I mean, you just really gamble on the fact that they 5-man commit to a Gold Fury. They're kind of overconfident. They don't even think they needed to defend the FG there. But,
right.
Yeah, obviously, Jengaru and Slash were completely aware of the call here. And, man, Priv's pulls this game were so nuts. These the double Riptide.
Yeah.
And then Shimigami predicts the dash and just finishes that. That was the snowball that started and made this duo lane just unplayable for Lucharizard.
Yeah, almost the exact same thing happened, like 6 seconds after that initial replay. Privative, another Riptide over there in duo lane, gives another kill over to Shinigami. Priv was really on point. Priv has been such an important member of this SAMSARA team. You know, I think back to like the Ganesh ban, the Athena ban, things like that. Priv has been so important in getting this team pressure on the left side. Yeah, there's the second of the moments that happened over in the duo lane. And Shinigami was able to kind of take control here. And then the first kill of the game for Jengaru, simple. You just walk in mid. And I think we saw why Bastet has taken a lot of pick ban priority, Trelly. I mean, by the end of this game, Jengaru was sending out a cat and dealing everyone's almost entire HP bar.
Yeah, it just feels super oppressive, like I've been saying. I mean, you have to have some type of way to lock her down. She can always jump in, jump out freely, unless you have some sort of way to just say, no, you can't do that, you can't get to my backline. But, I mean, Jengaru's HP never dropped below 80% there, jumping into well. Titan didn't care. I mean, yeah, I think if right now, if you're later SLADER, that's definitely where I would be looking at for the ban's phase for sure.
Yeah, maybe we take away the 6-0 Bastet from Jengaru. 1 kill here in this game, and that was Paradox. Yeah, there was a moment around the Gold Fury where Sumik rotates over, we get an early kill, or kind of a mid-game kill onto Briz, and that was it for the rest of this game. Briz dies once, doesn't happen again throughout the rest. Big damage numbers from Briz here in this game, and I think that's another important facet of this SAMSARA team, where Briz on these control-style mages, whether it's a Thoth, whether it's an Agni, the artillery-style mage, maybe another way of looking at it, always able to deal massive damage numbers. And so I think later SLADER are in a difficult spot here, where there is a lot you have to look at here in this draft, where you send a couple of bans Privative's way, but Priv ends up getting Yamoja 10th pick anyway, and makes it look unbelievable. Then you got Briz to worry about, who plays really well on these back artillery control mages, and you got Jengaru, who's playing the Bastet near the top of the tier list. Later SLADER has some serious strategy they gotta work through here for game 2. Oftentimes, though, teams will say, now we just focus on our game plan instead of trying to worry about SAMSARA's, but I don't know if you can do that.
Yeah, I would like to sit through that brainstorm meeting for sure. I still think that this Bastet should be their target because you're not banning away an Agni. I think there's 5 other mages that can do exactly what that Agni did, but better at this point. So you can't ban away the Agni. If you're banning away Yamoja, you're leaving over that Circuit or that Fenrir. So I think at this point you probably look at that Bastet and then try to play your own game.
Yeah, play your own game. We'll see what the strategy is for later SLADER and pick some bans for game number 2. Those will start right now. SAMSARA find themselves in first pick. That'll allow them to leave one of those power picks open. And so we're going to see a lot of answers to some of the questions we've been raising here for later SLADER in the first 6 bans, as far as what is the most important pick that we do not want to play against. I tend to agree with you here, Trelly. I think this Bastet needs to take a seat. SAMSARA are going to ban away Cabrakan, ban away the Fenrir, though. Amaterasu is not going to get played. And so Ama continues to be towards the top of that solo lane tier list. Fenrir as well. Izanami ends up getting banned by later SLADER here. So bans actually looking somewhat similar, and it's these last 2 where things could get interesting. I say could with heavy emphasis, but not just yet getting all that much more interesting. Ardio gets taken away. It's the same set of bans from SAMSARA. And then Gilgamesh. So there is a pivot here, and it's Gilgamesh that gets banned away
Already.
Yeah, why not? Why not just take the Bastet again?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I don't want to say 2-0 SAMSARA just because of this pick. I don't want to, but just...
Wow, 83% win rate.
That's what I'm saying. Did they have an answer for this Bastet that we just weren't seeing? Maybe it's this Serket pick. You know, this is what I was talking about, though. If Bastet jumps in, you have to have a way to make sure she can't just jump out for free. That unlimited poke potential that Bastet has is just insane. So maybe the lockdown, the increased CC, the Serket pick could be the answer that they were looking for. Maybe that's why they decided to just let it through.
And this, but Serket being there, absolutely something SAMSARA knew was, I think probably knew was going to get picked. I mean, if you're SAMSARA, Serket has been banned out all week long, all weekend long, and still SAMSARA prioritize the Kabrak and the Fenrir, the Ardio. So you have to know that you're picking this Bastet into something like the Serket, and Jangaru, I guess, just doesn't really care. And so Bastet with the 83% win rate, going up against something with a little bit more disruption in the Serket. But the carries are going to be the exact same from SAMSARA as well. Ganesh gets picked, so an effective pick ban against Privative there for later SLADER. But I wonder now, do you ban the Emoja in the second wave if you're later SLADER? Because SAMSARA are showing that they're okay to just run back the same draft.
Yeah, in my eyes, later SLADER did pick, first of all, you were right, obviously, you gotta get rid of that Umoja, but I think they did try to pick this counter Bastet squad where if she jumps in, we silence her with the Ganesh, we try to CC the heck out of her with the Serket pick, so maybe that was their whole plan, bait them into the Bastet pick, they have first pick, we'll leave it open, and then we pick things to deal with it, so if that is the strat, they're gonna have to get those beads down and play around it, but a lot of these, they are gonna ban that Osiris away from Slash, so we're not gonna be able to see the salty run back entirely. 2 new picks from the front line of SAMSARA.
Yeah, because Odin gets banned away as well, so 2 new picks in the solo lane as well. Solo lane takes a couple of bans here down the stretch. Athena is picked. Have to imagine that'll be a solo lane Athena. So there is some global presence now. That opens you up to drop the teleport, pick up a different relic in one of those 2 slots. Some more viability with that ultimate. ESET is the lock-in, though. And so I'm looking around. I'm wondering if this could be an ESET support for Privative. Chalk being hovered. Say this is an ESET support. Do you think that scratches the itch that SAMSARA were looking for here with their support pick?
I mean, if I'm honest, ESET kind of fills that same role of Umoja in the sense of lots of early CC, lots of lockdown if they want to get that pressure, and then, you know, the big ultimate, lots of healing, those sort of things. I'm not going to say that the same sort of pick, but they have that same sort of style where they're going to get that pressure early and lots of lockdown. So I think this is pretty much everything they wanted. They just substitute out that Umoja for an ESET and just dial up in that lane. So
it's Ganesh, Heimdall in the duo lane for later SLADER. And that's where everything went wrong in game 1, was Heimdall with the Bacchus. Do you think there's potential for a similar laning phase here? I mean, ESET Medusa, so we've changed supports, but we've kept the hunters themselves the same. The carries themselves are the same pick between Heimdall and Medusa. Swap the supports. Do you think we could see this Heimdall punished again?
I think if you're later SLADER, I think you got to tell Lucharizard, dial it back in that lane, because at this point the pressure is already there. If anything, you're just going to have less pressure because ESET just has better clear than Umoja early. So I think that there's definitely that same potential, but I think if you're Lucharizard, you got to learn from your mistakes and say, you know, maybe we don't push up this early. Well, it is
Bastet first pick here for SAMSARA in game number 2, but into a composition that could maybe punish the Bastet a little bit further. We'll see if SAMSARA can grab the 2-0 win over later SLADER, move themselves on in the upper bracket, and drop later SLADER down to the lower bracket. Will be Serket out of the jungle up against Jangaru. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. What do we think, though, about the solo lane matchup here, Trelly? I mean, Chalk versus Athena, I think something that we've probably never seen in the last couple of years out of solo, and so unique matchup here.
Yeah, I mean, right now there are a lot of, like, Guardian solos that are in the meta right now, as we saw those RDOs, those Kabrakans banned. And the reason is this Vamp Shroud Breastplate Star does kind of deal with these auto attack warriors a little bit. You have a lot of early protections, you have a lot of sustains, so you can just sit there and dial in. But Slash is going Bluestone Transcendent start, so it looks like he's just going for full damage. I feel as if as long as you don't get behind as this Athena, you're going to be just fine in this lane.
Yeah, I wonder how Sumich will play with these ults as well. I mean, that's the type of deal where out of nowhere, Briz ganked in mid lane, and how about a start here for later SLADER? Slade walks in mid, and Briz didn't have the escape. Beads down as well, And Paradox grabs first blood, and so a dream start for later SLADER, where not only Briz dying, but you're able to grab first blood for Paradox.
Yeah, it seems like they made the correction. They said, you know what, last time we did the solo jungle start, we didn't really get much out of it. Maybe we sort of bait that start, and then Slade comes around from mid camps, and Briz just wasn't expecting the Circuit, I guess, wasted the beads, and then easy first blood. So already making the corrections that they need to, because that was not the start they opted for in game 1.
No, now you have to be a little bit more careful if you're Briz there in mid. For 30 seconds at least, your beads are gone. And so Slade will be privy to that. Instead, Slade looking over towards the duo lane. So, will anyone step up too far between Privative and Shinigami? The answer is no, so Slade will have to look elsewhere. But, pathing strong. I'm just keeping my eyes on that Circuit. Yeah, Briz smart enough, realizing that the Circuit lurking. And SAMSARA, the answer is send Jangaru over towards right, strip away some of that right side jungle, see if we can get some pressure there. But already a good start for the Circuit as well here, Trelly, in game 1.
Yeah, it looks like Slade is going to be sitting here just waiting for Briz to push up. But in this lane, this is what I was talking about. That E-set is going to provide that same sort of CC that Yamoja did, but still just have so much damage and pressure as well. So it seems like the duo lane is aiming for a similar strat where they just want to be constantly keeping them at their tower line, making sure they can't do anything here. But a blue buff invade.
Slash. Takes a nice chunk of damage out of Slade's health bar. Sumik around the corner, blue buff secured, but at what cost? Slade has to jump away, taunt through by Sumik, and everyone will get out alive. So blue buff invade no good, Sumik picks it up. Slade does have to head back to base. Jangaru will get a couple of moments with a little bit more farm here in the solo lane, but no harm, no foul. Later SLADER just happy to pick up the blue buff there for themselves. Different start though, as far as Hunter builds go. Death Toll for both. Usually see that go into Crusher for both, but not going to be for Shinigami. Something in that Aussie, Exy, chin size tree is what Shinigami's got in mind.
Yeah, it looks like he just won. I mean, that Crusher start is so strong, so there's got to be some sort of theory crafting going on here. There's got to be a reason that he wants to go for the... I mean, I guess maybe you just want to go for the crazy attack speed off your one and try to dash in and get a kill there, but I still feel like Crusher provides so much more DPS there. Either way, it looks like they're just going to be having this slap fight in solo lane, and the duo lane seems to be stalemating as well, so maybe they're just going to be trying to starve them out here. And Slade is just waiting for Briz to push up.
And Briz, who does have beads now, will just dash away. So good timing there. And actually, Briz turns around all the damage. Slade, what are you doing? You shouldn't have come here to my house. Briz shuts him down, kicks him out. Slade jumps in and immediately regrets it.
Briz is just built different. I mean, if he really didn't know he was there, just the reaction time to instantly dash away, stun, flame wave into the bomb.
There's no ward or anything?
Yeah, I mean, that was just ultra instinct there. He was well aware of what he had to do, had so much damage. This is what I was talking about, though. Agni has no sort of items finish. Persephone has the Spear of Desolation. Right. That was not even a full flat pen item. Agni just does so much early damage. And, you know, if Slade had the ult, maybe that would have went a little differently. But you're level 4 Circuit, you're going back to base.
Yeah, Slade just evaporates there. And that's an important pullback. And the fact that it was a solo kill, you know, nothing to be split there. Briz just gets that all for himself in the mid lane. And so the Agni brought right back to even with Paradox. Slade makes her way towards the left. Paradox uses the beads. Jangaru close. Jangaru has ult. Jangaru will not use ult, but there is fighting happening on left. Shinigami in the Dharmic Pillars, and Slade snags the kill there. Privative, wind gusting away desperately. And so it's one kill handed over to later SLADER on left. Jangaru way behind this fight. Maybe a purple buff invade. And that's it. Looks like purple buff is secured by Jangaru. But nice kill over to later SLADER already. This game, game 2, much better than how game number 1 went in the duo lane.
Yep, looks like no, Paradox does gonna have the jump away. Shinigami did opt to go for that Exy, just looking for some early penetration and attack speed there. So that's not gonna be that Crusher start that we've been talking about. But it seems like that gold lead is still in favor of SAMSARA, obviously. So they still do have that pressure that they want. But it was just they dropped 3 ults on Shinigami there. He really couldn't get through the Dharmic Pillars. It was just he was too weak. So they found the gank they wanted. Now the question is, what are they gonna do with it? Are they gonna keep trying to put that pressure over in the duo lane, or are they gonna look elsewhere? It looks like Slade is getting very active on this map, constantly trying to gank over in mid, constantly looking over at duo. So I already like this change of pace from Slade.
Yeah, Slade wasn't able to do much of anything in game 1. The Gilgamesh just fell by the wayside. Winds of Shamash used to zone more than anything else. And so a better look at a game here from Slade. But you spend all that time ganking, that means you're going to be losing some time farming. And Slade learns the hard way yet again that a level 8 Briz, this time with a completed Spear of Desolation, can chunk down that health bar just fine. And already you're kind of getting the early look at Briz and his ability to play this Agni. It's a much more standout game already. Briz had a fantastic game number 1, but so much of the focus was centered around Jangaru, Priv, Shinigami. But Briz has had so much attention put towards mid lane here in this game, and I think the Agni has looked fantastic. Blue buff comes up. And it looks like later SLADER are going to send 3 members over just to make sure no funny business is there from SAMSARA.
Yeah, I mean, I want to highlight Briz's play again because usually he's been getting 2v1 this whole game pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always been sat on by Slade, but in my ranked games, Agni would just rage and get mad and say,
Yeah,
you know, I need jungle help. But Briz just, he said, I'll do it all myself. He just sits there, takes that fight, and now the purple invade's going to go through, but he's sitting pretty. He's ahead right now.
Athena ult in. And so that's the first usage, and taunt no good. So Sumik uses the ultimate to get on over towards left. Jangaru takes a whole heap of damage, but Charizard does as well. Ultimate pulls Sumik back in. I'm not sure that's what Jangaru was looking for. Dash forward, taunts no good just yet. None of the taunts connecting. Shinigami sent on back. Slade jumps away. That's a lot of engage there for later SLADER that just does not connect. Privative in on the chase. Paradox going to take a chunk of damage here. Watch out for the Spirit Ball. Who does it connect on to? Slash. Feel like he's got enough damage. Has his ultimate. Gets a big silence on the back end. Slade dashes away and will survive. Big silence, big taunt onto both Privative and Slash, but none of these health bars going down. Maybe if Briz is there, it's a different story. So 4 versus 5 comes out in a wash.
If anything, I think what Briz is doing is smart. This was a 5v5 in duo at 7 minutes fighting over absolutely nothing, and Briz is like, Slash, why'd you come over here? I'm going to go get all this farm because there was no sort of engage. I don't think SAMSARA was ever in any danger. Once Shinigami lived that Circuit ult, I mean, that fight was done. So just go push your farm, go push your lane because it's not like they're going to pull gold after that. You have the E-set ult, you have the Circle of Protection available. So just get all the farm you can. There was really no need to fight over that. It was just a strange 5v5 grouping from later SLADER that I didn't really think was necessary.
Doug, can you show me the gold charts yet again? Because we've done nothing in the last 2 minutes. And the gold lead has grown to about 2,000, 1.5 to 2,000 for SAMSARA, and literally nothing has happened. And so, you know, those types of plays are benefiting SAMSARA right now, and experience still very much in the same category. Well-timed ultimate from Jangaru, yes please, says Briz. And Evermed chunked down and taken down, and now the kill's starting to roll for SAMSARA. So the gold and experience lead were already there. And now the kill's starting to follow.
You hate to see that for Evermed, just trying to save his mid, but also get stuck with so much damage at this point. I think Briz is in no sort of danger here. That is
I think
level.
Slade might be in some danger.
Yeah, I think Slade might be too. Jangaru just got hit, and the jump.
Oh my god, what? How's Jangaru 2 levels ahead all of a sudden? I don't know. Truly, like, nothing has happened in this game in the last 2 minutes except for a couple of kills. But, like, so much has changed as far as the lead. Like, a couple thousand gold. I guess that fight and opening up more farm to SAMSARA has really extended out that gold lead. Experience ballooned up for Briz in that moment. And with a Gold Fury confirmed, 4,000. As we've been talking about it, Charizard winning the 1v1 against Shinigami, but Shinigami just surviving. Can we bait Charizard? That is the question. Charizard wants to stick around, does not have beads, but does have ultimate. Looks like thinking twice about going in for the 1v1.
Yeah, he's got all sorts of vision as the Heimdall here, so he's not going to get called out. I think Shinigami just, you know, tanked a little bit, just got the Gold Fury. Probably wasn't looking to fight anyways, and then it was like, oh, wait, you actually have Crusher and do a lot of damage here. And it looks like later SLADER, they're going to go for that Pyro because at this point there's nothing else on the map to do, and it should be fine. And nope, there's no way. Jangaru does not get there in time, but they still have been trying to get proactive. Like I said, Slade he's not been letting this lead determine him from not going in for these ganks, which I like to see because you don't want to just sit over here and roll over and say maybe we'll get late game, because right now you just have so much damage on the side of SAMSARA. You do not want to let Briz get these items online.
Yeah, I mean, you can't is the problem if you're Slade. I mean, you'd love to sit back and farm. Yeah, but we've seen this story before. I guess you haven't had an Athena in your corner in previous turns around. Briz, are you kidding me with Privative? It just does not work out. That is absurd. SAMSARA turning around. Priv, the saving grace, the support made plays in game 1. rotates to mid, helps out Briz here in game number 2. And all hats off to the Agni, but Privative makes a big play there. Turns around that gank.
My jaw dropped there.
Yeah,
I mean
that
that was the defender comes in, you get your dash caught by the Circuit ult, and then you're done, right? But then Priv comes in with the beautiful silence. That's the only thing that could have given him any sort of HP there because he had the last breath on him, so he couldn't heal or anything. Beautiful shield, and then Briz just turns out with so much damage. I mean, like I've been saying, this is just excellent team play. You know these comms have to be so clear. There was no sort of panic. He got all of his DPS off. I mean, just a great play from Briz and Priv.
Privative has been the standout player from game 1, standout player here in game number 2 as well. Gank over towards right, haven't seen that much here this set. And Sumik outside of the dash. Ooh, ult no good from Jangaru. That certainly would have been a kill. Should be anyway, and it is. Slash nabs that one. And unfortunately for later Slader Trelly. Oh my god. Yeah, this just keeps happening. Briz just melting down health bars. Unfortunately for later Slader, we're already like right back in the same game state that we were in game 1 that forced you to take a questionable Fire Giant call. Briz is just a couple ults away from taking down Slade here, and the artillery mage continues to wreak havoc. But it's the same game state, really, as game 1, isn't it? Where later Slader felt like they had to make that desperation call and might have to find another way to pull themselves back here into game 2.
Yeah, I mean, in my eyes, it's the exact same situation. Sumik makes that rotation over. Briz almost dies, but this time they don't even get that kill. Of course, they do have 2 kills on the board because Slade was getting very active early and set up pretty well. But I think it's going even worse because if you don't have that Odin cage to set up, what do you have at this point? And Briz is going to be ganking behind the tower.
And Briz, unfortunately, won't be able to catch Blue Charizard out, but Bifrost used, decent little link there, so that'll be on cooldown for a little while, just force Blue Charizard into a bit of an uncomfortable spot. Slade goes Jotuns into Bulwark of Hope. And so, you know, maybe you're hoping that you can build a little bit more damage here if you're Slade, but you are you're 4 levels down in the jungle. Maybe Bulwark of Hope is the only item that's going to keep you on the map for any amount of time if you're looking for ganks.
Yeah, you're 5 levels behind the Agni with 2 flat pen items. I think that Bulwark might have been the best option he really had because who else are you going to be targeting right now? He hasn't made the rotation over to try to kill Medusa once, so right now he just keeps going on this Agni and gets dropped bombs on him every time. I think he was forced into that because of how much damage Briz is outputting.
Yeah, my goodness. So in game 1, where the duo lane just felt horrible for later Slader, the jungle feels horrible right now. Shinigami uses the beads, dashes away. It's gotta be a kill, but the Petrify is good. Dash back in. Shinigami dies, but maybe he has bought time. There's still enough of an advantage throughout the rest of this map where SAMSARA can turn this fight around. 1 for what is the question right now? 1 for 1. Tier 1 tower, it's safe enough. And it looks like 1 for 1 is where we will stand. Support for ADC. Probably something later Slader will take.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great time to kill Shinigami as well. They do have the Primal spawning very soon, so without your ADC, you can't really burn that down too effectively, but Circle of Protection is available, so they could probably force this just fine, and it looks like later Slader is probably going to let them. There's no one really close. Luke Charizard is sort of pushing up, but he might get caught out by Slash here.
I was going to say, I mean, Charizard isn't careful. That's a dead Heimdall. As the rest of SAMSARA grab the Primal Fury. Keep your eyes on the map. This is where later Slader thought about a Fire Giant in game 1, maybe a couple minutes further down the road than where we are now, but same kind of moment. Primal Fury confirmed by SAMSARA. And Shinigami completes the entire tree there. Xe, Asi, and Chin Size. And the threat of these healthy targets, whether it's Evermed, whether it's Sumik, whether it's Slade now with Bulwark of Hope, maybe this build is starting to have a little bit more value for Shinigami.
I'm just looking at this gold lead and wondering how it got so out of control. I mean, they're going to have to drop everything on this Pyro, and it still might be close. No, Briz is here. This is going to be no way. He's going to have so much damage on them.
Yo, SAMSARA get the Pyro, and Jangaru gets the kill. Oh, this is crumbling around later Slader. So it's not the Fire Giant call, but it's like the same kind of thing where you drop everything on an objective on the right side of the map. SAMSARA get there late. They kill you. They kill 3 or 4 of you anyway. And we're starting to think about what's for lunch if we're later Slader now, because or how we're going to fight our way out of the losers bracket. What goes wrong here in game 1? these level leads are just too far out of control. I mean, you're hoping you can steal an FG, something like that, but I think I have enough respect for SAMSARA here at this point and what they showed me a couple weeks ago and what SAMSARA have showed me here today. I see a very, 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 very small chance that later SLADER are able to catch a fumble or something like that from SAMSARA.
Yeah, it just seemed like they keep putting all their eggs in these Hail Mary baskets, and it just doesn't work out. I mean, at that point, it wasn't the 2v5. It was the 3v5, obviously, all grouping up.
For a pyro, though.
All,
I mean, like,
all three grouping up on a yeah, that's not even a Hail Mary. That was a first down. They were going for a first down. They just could not convert.
Yeah, they were desperate to move the ball forward. And so we drop one of our best team fighting ultimates and a lot of our damage onto the pyro, and Briz 3-man stun. Unfortunate for later SLADER. This one, I think, a couple minutes from coming to a close. Fire Giants there for SAMSARA. That'll be there for 3.5 more minutes. There are a lot of towers still left on the map as well. Jangaru grabs an engage onto Evermed, and there is a lot of CC on SAMSARA. A lot of instances of being able to chain that CC together as well. So SAMSARA grab a pick onto Evermed. Luckily, you're level 12 at 17 minutes, so that death timer is only going to be about 30 seconds. But Tier 1, Tier 2 tower should be an afterthought. And later SLADER, I think they're thinking of Phoenix defense.
I can't believe Evermed just went for the Onk there. I mean, I think like Beats would just suit him so much better. He's just getting CC chained, as you just said.
Is that for the circle of protection?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that's their idea. Maybe we just win a fight off of a big like Onk play, but at this point, I feel like just keeping your Ganesha alive just seems like so much better than the Onk at this point. The healing isn't even what I'd be worried about.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, all right. So, you know, watch. We're going to end up with egg on our face. We're going to get to see the biggest Onk of all time. And the circle of protection healing is what we really, really needed if we're SAMSARA. And it's just not going to be there because Evermed with the Onk pickup completely flipped the game around. I say that through bated breath. I don't think that's actually going to happen. But SAMSARA, now I have to be a little bit more cautious about relying on that healing, I suppose. But I think you bring up a good point there where the survivability now of this Ganesh brought into question. You know, you're not going to be able to do much of what Ganesh wants to do. I mean, you got to, drop those Dharmic Pillars and hope that that's enough to help your team in a team fight?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole name of the game here. Are you able to survive long enough to peel so that your carries can get you out of this situation? And if you're Ganesh, going in, dropping the Dharmic Pillars and popping on, I don't think you've done your job there. You really want to try to CC this Bastet once Jangaru jumps in, try to and just keep him, from casting everything. But it's just, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the play here. I feel like Briz could probably just get Evermed like 10% HP just from a distance before you even get to be able to drop those Dharmic Pillars. So it's just going to be a tall hill to climb, especially with no sort of CC immunity here. I
think we're right back into like SAMSARA could 3v5 kind of like situation. I mean, Privative is only behind in levels to Lucharizard. And so when the enemy support is ahead in levels of your entire team, usually a pretty good indication that things aren't quite going your way. Fire Giant still has exactly 1 minute left on it. We're going to knock down these couple of towers. That's an early FG. And so oftentimes the setup Fire Giant is that first one. You're going to expose all three of these Phoenixes here. If you're SAMSARA, you can regroup and maybe head back to the other Fire Giant. Looks like they won't be attempting the Phoenix push this time. Just want to build up that gold a little bit further. There were, 5 towers left on the map at the beginning of that Fire Giant? Yeah, I think needless to say, the gold lead has grown on the Fire Giant power play, up to 15,000. Actually, you know what? We don't often. I'm actually very curious. Okay, XP diff. I'm gonna see the gold diff here because often I don't really reference the plus gold diff. All right, so plus 5,000 gold differential, and I think Trelly, a lot of that is through just the 5 towers that were left standing on the map that they just knocked down.
Yeah, and here we go. They're gonna start their push once again, and it's only gonna get worse. I will say, because we gotta look at both sides here. You do have a 1-0 Heimdall with Silver Branch finish. That's a good amount of penetration. Okay. You have Soul Reaver. That's a pretty key item here. Lucharizard easily evades that Huntress of Bass. So you have some highlights here. I don't want to write them off just yet. If they are able to play off of their 1-0 ADC. Okay, I'll call it now. If Lucharizard dies, game's over. If not,
fair enough.
It's gonna continue on, march on.
You're learning the job well, Trelly. You gotta always sow some seeds of potential into a game like this, right? I mean, you never know. You never really know. But yeah, I think it all hangs on Charizard. The only player on later SLADER, maybe Paradox as well. Both of them somewhat close in levels to the rest of SAMSARA item-wise. We're getting there as well. Obsidian Shard, nice little power spike for Paradox. But Fire Giant's about to respawn. Game 1, you attempted to take it without SAMSARA knowing if you're later SLADER. Trelly, if you're later SLADER, are you even bothering stepping out on this side of the map?
If I'm later SLADER, I'm 5v5ing at this FG and going for it all, but it looks like they seem to have the complete opposite reaction. They are just going to get what little farm they have. I can't imagine the Phoenix fight is that much better than the Fire fight, and at least if you steal Fire, maybe you stall the game out a little bit longer, but they seem to have a plan. I think they're putting their backs on this Onk play because we have not seen it pop yet, so they're going to say we're fighting under this Phoenix. We're going to see if the Onk really does just throw a thorn in their side, and that's the play call right here, and we're about to see it come to fruition.
I want to see a big alternate timeline play here from Briz. Evermed is ever dead, and that happens yet again. Jangaru adds another. Right side Phoenix going to go down as well. SAMSARA have controlled this set from minute 1 of game number 1. Bit of a stumble early on in game 2, but SAMSARA roared back into control. Dropped down the right side Phoenix easily, and that is massive engage from SAMSARA, and the damage is there as well. This game is over. SAMSARA shut down later SLADER, and they will take the 2-0 set.
That Onk did not get popped. I think a Beads would have been pretty sick there if ever.
Didn't even get to use it.
He did not even get to use it. So I think, yeah, maybe we were right about that Beads call. Either way, I think it wouldn't have mattered too much. Like we said, I mean, you have to have the protections, you have to have the HP to survive and be able to peel there, and it wasn't there. It was just not in the cards. Just perfect smite by SAMSARA.
Honestly, and I think that is the trend that SAMSARA had established during that SPL play-in tournament. You hear us referencing that so much because for so many of these SEC teams hoping to qualify into the SEC, the last time we saw them was during that SPL play-in tournament. So that's the last bit of data we've got. SAMSARA, that's the last time we saw this team play. And up against every other team that wasn't the now Valhalla Valkyries, the now Oni Warriors, SAMSARA were a very, very impressive squad. This is why. A 2-0 win for SAMSARA to start off our day. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Charlie and I will break this one down.
You better
Yeah, when we said today might have the first 3-game set, definitely didn't mean this one.
No.
Actually did. I thought this one might be a little bit closer, but SAMSARA, no, not a 3-game set. Not even close. SAMSARA in game 1, roll over later SLADER. Game number 2, what we're about to break down, very, very much the same, except there's a little bit of early pressure from later SLADER here in this one. Trelly, I think there's a moment in this game where later SLADER have a couple early kills.
Yep.
The game kind of slows down, and it was that like fake fight over in duo lane where everyone but Briz is over there. And by the end of that, SAMSARA suddenly have like a 2,000 gold lead, like 3,000 or 4,000 XP, and like nothing like really happened except for just a whole bunch of farm gets stolen, I guess. And from there, SAMSARA never looked back.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue with the Athena solo pick is if you're ulting over, if you're putting all your eggs in this rotation basket, leaving your lane to be just pushed, and you don't get enough off it, it never really works out. And then, oh, this play. I got to just stop and watch this beautiful play. Briz just had no idea Slade was there, I can assume, and just turned on him so hard.
You know, I actually appreciate the play more when we're able to watch it from Briz's actual perspective. Because, like, from top down, that wall doesn't look all that, like, tall or anything like that. But there's something about, like, the massive wall that the Circuit made their way over, and Briz able to read it and dash away. And this was gross as well. So Briz does a lot here, don't get me wrong. But Priv, my goodness, from range with the stun, and then Briz dashes the ult. Priv just, you know, I think Priv in game 1 on the Emoja really stood out. And this was another great example. This is another look at, or a different look rather, at the mid lane play. I think Priv started to be, in my mind, one of the most impressive supports here in the North American SCC.
I have to agree with you. I mean, Priv's been playing lights out, been taking a lot of target bans as well. Played very well on the Circuit and the Fenrir respectively. Been getting banned out here, as you also mentioned. They had to ban that Yamoja away. So, I mean, Priv's been playing lights out, making sure he's able to keep his carries alive, but also setting up for them as well. And that's what you really want. You want that balance between the peel and the engage. And it seems like Priv's got that down to a science.
This one was just not really all that close. So if you're later SLADER, you know, I guess the good news is you've got a lot that you can go back and look on here in this set and realize, all right, here's where things didn't go wrong. Here's where our macro game just didn't quite connect. If you're SAMSARA, I think this is an amazing confidence boost for you and your team moving forward. There are some very, very good teams here in the North American SEC, but I think this cements SAMSARA as a team that should be one of the favorites to qualify in to the more North American SEC after the way that they're able to take down later SLADER here in this game. That's our first of 4 sets, though, here today. Our first best of 3. We've got 3 more best of 3, so plenty more Smite to be had on this fine Sunday. A whole lot of 2-0s over here in North America. FunHavers versus the Neighborhood. There's a matchup that we've got up next. Lean Into It versus HOTM, and then My Fault B versus Sops Time will finish out the day here on this Sunday of North American SCC qualifying. FunHavers versus the Neighborhood. We'll knock one team down to the losers round 1 over there on the right, and the winner will move on to face SAMSARA. So, if you were someone who watched that SPL qualifier tournament, these next couple of matchups are ones that you probably saw during that week. This FunHavers versus the Neighborhood teams, you know, they played against one another a couple of times. SAMSARA versus the Neighborhood ran into one another during that SPL qualifier tournament. And so, at risk of being wrong again, Trilly,
I was going to say
I think FunHavers versus the Neighborhood could be our first 3-game set of the week.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't want to cast a curse it, so I like the way you phrased that. It certainly could be that first 2-1 set, and you know, I'm going to throw my eggs in that basket as well. I also think it could be a 2-1 set. I mean, at the very least, we're going to see some very high-level competitive Smite.
That's right. A lot of fun between these two teams. The FunHavers versus the Neighborhood, round 3, coming up next.